Welcome back, folks. My name is Justin. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for clicking on today's video. I really do appreciate it. If you could be so kind, please drop a like on this video, drop your comments down below, and let me know what you thought of Joe Begos' latest film, Christmas Bloody Christmas. And I have a lot of thoughts about this, and we're also going to get into, I want to pose a question of the day. Joe Begos has long been one of my favorite filmmakers, I guess as long as he's a newer filmmaker, but in the past 4 or 5 years, he's been one of my favorites. I have my Joe Begos cover of Fangoria from a year or two ago. I have a couple of my favorite films by Joe Begos, VFW, which is amazing. You guys need to check this out, and Bliss. This is a film that if you guys have been watching this channel for any length of time, I've mentioned this film dozens of times. It's what put Joe Begos on the map for me as one of the most exciting modern filmmakers that we have, modern independent filmmakers, and now we have his latest film. And I want to kick this video off by posing a question, which is probably going to be a running theme throughout this video. Have you guys ever felt guilty about straight up not liking or being very disappointed with one of your favorite filmmakers' movies? This is something that I'm struggling with Christmas Bloody Christmas, and we're gonna dive into all of that. I was disappointed with Christmas Bloody Christmas. I felt so conflicted while watching this movie. I've watched it twice now, but I really wanna know, in the comments down below, answer me this question of the day. Have you ever been disappointed or almost felt guilty? That's like a feeling of guilt about not liking one of your favorite filmmakers' films, because that's what we're going to dive in today, because I was in fact disappointed with Christmas Bloody Christmas. I know, wah, wah, wah. Go grab me a wham burger and some French fries for Justin and his disappointment in Christmas Bloody Christmas. Let's talk about it. So Christmas Bloody Christmas marks the 5th feature film by filmmaker Joe Begos. His feature film debut was Almost Human. He followed that up with The Mind's Eye, followed that up with Bliss in 2019, also VFW in 2019, and now in 2022 he has Christmas Bloody Christmas. This film actually started out as a pitch for a reboot of the Silent Night, Deadly Night series.
So right after VFW and Bliss hit, right before the pandemic, I got asked to pitch on a remake by the rights holders. And I was fucking super excited. So I wrote like this super detailed 12-page pitch that is literally Christmas Bloody Christmas from front to start. And they passed on it. They didn't think that it was enough like the original. The fans are gonna be mad. And it's like, well, motherfucker, I'm the fan base.
Yeah.
Who cares? There's a fucking killer Santa. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But they passed.
So he decided, what the hell, I'm just gonna make my own movie. He describes how Christmas and the Christmas aesthetic lends to his own aesthetic as it pertains to at least a couple of his last films, this neon lighting, this very, very singular aesthetic that Joe Begos seems to be carving out for himself, which comes in like full form in Christmas Bloody Christmas. And it's true, films like Black Xmas and Black Christmas really do have this amazing aesthetic, and I can see why Joe Begos is so infatuated, especially with the lighting in Christmas Bloody Christmas, basically lighting the entire scene with neon and keeping this, maybe not the spirit of Christmas as far as the script and the story, but definitely the Christmas aesthetic. And I do believe this kind of obsession kind of was one of the main downfalls of this movie. Not that I didn't like the look, but I think his choice to kind of pick an aesthetic over story and what's actually happening came to a detriment to this movie. One thing I did fail to mention in this video pertaining to the aesthetic is, yes, the neon glow in his movies are amazing. The set design of the record store that they're in is incredible. It looks beautiful. But that being said, when every shot in your movie is an interior or dark night scene, the movie becomes very repetitive, and it's not visually interesting if every scene looks exactly the same. Whether they go outside, inside, outside, on the roof, everywhere looks the same. So the scenes really don't have any sort of dynamic range as far as when you're going to the movie. I know I kept talking about Damien Leone, which, by the way, he did Terrifier 2 for under $1 million. Joe Begos, the budget of Christmas Bloody Christmas was $3 million. And if you think when you watch Terrifier 2, you have interior scenes, you have club scenes, you have daytime scenes, school scenes, all of this different type of stuff. And it kind of creates a lot more for the eyes and the brain to sort of grasp onto to make the movie kind of interesting. When you watch a movie like Christmas Bloody Christmas, all of the neon glow kind of loses its charm when that's all you see for an hour and 20 minutes. So some location changes and things, I think, may have helped as well. And I do believe that the choice to kind of choose this Christmas neon aesthetic over telling a story, which was very much intentional. I watched a bunch of interviews with Joe Bigos, and it was intentional to kind of leave a story lacking and kind of just tell a balls to the wall, sleazy, drug-fueled, fuck-filled, animatronic robot killer Santa movie, just to kind of put this all on the screen without really kind of prioritizing any kind of a through line or like kind of a 3-act structure or any sort of building tension or subplot or anything. He just basically achieved what he wanted to do in making sort of a plotless killer Santa Claus movie with nearly zero explanation as to why this mechanical animatronic Santa is killing people, other than explaining that the design and these robots were initially built for military purposes, and for whatever reason, on this particular Christmas, these Santas decide, or at least this one particular Santa decides to go on a murder spree, and not just to kill anybody all over, but seems to have latched on to just a specific couple characters in this movie. But unlike his previous films like VFW or Bliss, which definitely had a story and some character developments and some character arcs and some unique dialogue, Christmas Bloody Christmas pretty much throws all that out the window for a sort of hangout movie for the first half. And finally, towards the third act, we get this Terminator finale, this Terminator Santa Claus. And at that point, the film does get pretty interesting, and there's a lot of fun stuff. A lot of the fun stuff you can't see very well because the film is so dark. So even though there is some kills here, they're not very visible and you can't really see them. The film lacks a lot of tension or suspense, which I feel like could have made this film so much better. For example, in VFW, you have a pretty suspenseful plot. You have a bunch of army buddies getting together, drinking, getting drunk in a bar, when all of a sudden this chick burst into the bar and she's got a big bag of drugs that she's stolen from this gang. And now all of a sudden there's this gang of goons descending on this bar, and it creates a very tense scenario. Again, sharing the same aesthetic as Bliss and Christmas Bloody Christmas. Very dark lighting with just the neons lighting the room, but there's a lot more story and a lot more suspense. In Bliss, we also get this neon-drenched 16mm grain, but we also get Desi, a fully realized character. You get to know her a little bit. You follow her. You watch her interact with people, and you kind of have a through line of a story as she begins to be addicted to this drug called Bliss. She starts transforming into this vampire demon-type character, and it's a sort of downward spiral descent into madness, progressively insane story. And when I heard that Joe Bigos was doing this Christmas Bloody Christmas, I thought, holy shit, we're going to get this amazing Terminator style movie. And I was wondering, like, what kind of animatronic Santa is this? What's going to drive this Santa to start killing people? What are going to be the government aspects, or what's going to be the activation of this killer Santa? Will it be a lightning strike? Will it be some toxic sludge? What's going to happen? And really, there's no questions like that answered, and there's no really explanation to anything. There's no through line, there's no plot, there's no suspense, and I just struggle with that so much. All you're left with are these characters in this sort of hangout movie, and the characters are extremely, extremely annoying and grating and irritating and uninteresting. Some of the conversations I was able to latch onto, them discussing Pet Sematary 2 and Soundgarden and shitting on Blumhouse, which I did appreciate. And a lot of those things are the same issues that I started hearing people say about Bliss. That the characters were grating and they were irritating and they were very hard to sympathize with. And I didn't, maybe it's just because Desi's naked throughout this whole thing. I'm just kidding. She is, that helped. But no, I actually enjoyed this character. But after watching Christmas Bloody Christmas, I started to get the feeling that Joe Bigos is sort of repeating himself again and again, and I'm really disappointed to see that pattern, and I really don't want to see that pattern continue in his other movies. With his movies, especially with Bliss and this one, Joe Bigos pretty much just writes a female version of himself, like a carbon copy of himself that doesn't really feel natural. I feel like you're creating an unrealistic character that doesn't come off as an actual person. It just becomes sort of a personified list of all of Joe Bigos' interests. And that just doesn't really mean a good character. You can have a hot chick who's talking about Pet Sematary 2 and metal and Soundgarden, but that doesn't make a fully fleshed out, realized, interesting character. It's just a random body spouting interests and cool, like just kind of earning cool points, and that doesn't make an interesting character. I think when he stretches his legs with some decent writing and a story, he has a lot to say, and he has one of the most unique filmmaking aesthetics that we have going now. The past three of his films and his newest films are all filmed on 16mm film with natural lighting, this amazing film grain, and he also comes with an arsenal of references and an amazing passion for filmmaking. That's what I struggled so much with this movie. The movie, for the first half, you have these two characters set in a record store as they bicker, but they are so unlikable. But the film mainly centers around Tori and Robbie. Tori is the owner of this record store. Robbie is her employee. Robbie has a big thing for her, and Tori is explaining to him how she's going to spend her Christmas Eve hanging out with some dude she just met, and he's fawning all over her and talking shit on the dude she's supposed to be hooking up with. And then for about 30 minutes, we just hang out with them while they say fuck a bunch and cuss at each other. And the problem that I have with that is I don't mind cuss words in movies. Obviously, I'm not a fucking prude. I cuss in my movies as well. But there is a point when you feel like the dialogue is improvised and forced and it doesn't feel natural, and the characters are just unlikable. There's a lack of fun in this movie. A movie with drugs and sex and a mechanical Santa should feel fun, but this just feels joyless, and I just felt bummed out the whole time watching it. Watching these two people who seemingly hate each other. I know it's kind of this tough love kind of thing. And in Joe Bigos interviews, he explains how this is how me and my friends talk. This is how we talk to each other. This is how I interact with my friends, hanging out in bars and drinking and this and that. But a movie isn't reality. If you just sat a camera in front of some just normal drunk people at a party, it's going to be irritating. Nobody wants to watch people scream and argue with each other for 45 minutes. It's just not what I want to see in a film. It wasn't quite like Rob Zombie Halloween 2 level style dialogue, but pretty close. There's virtually no plot. It's hangout movie, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Santa Claus comes to life. I will say at the end, the animatronic Santa is badass. It looks fucking amazing, and the fact that Joe Bigos spent a good chunk of his budget building this animatronic Santa is incredible, and I love it. And the part that I struggle with so much is there's so many movies like this that are way dumber, that are just as plotless, that I love. I love Jack Frost, and I love movies like Uncle Sam and Silent Night, Deadly Night and Chopping Mall, but those have an aspect of either unaware silliness or self-aware silliness and a lot of fun. And when you try to recreate that in a modern age without kind of the dated 80s charm, a lot of that fun and kind of tongue-in-cheek laughable stuff is just kind of removed, and you're left with just some characters that are sort of annoying. And it just bummed me out, and I just really didn't enjoy this movie as much as I hoped. It's almost like I tried to make myself like it by watching it twice, watching a bunch of interviews. I have such a deep respect for Joe Bigos and his filmmaking, and I just feel bad that I didn't like this. It just really bums me out. I still have a feeling I'm gonna keep watching this movie and trying to like it more than I did, but it's just very, very thin. Maybe if there was more over-the-top kills and blood that I could actually see, because the movie is so dark, all of these amazing practical effects are almost wasted because it's so dark and you can't even really see it. There is a couple good kills, there's a good head smash, there's some good axe stuff, there's a couple really good chop in half kills, but you just can't see it, which really bummed me out. So the soundtrack is cool. I love some of the references. Had he put a little more effort into telling a better story, I think this movie would have done gangbusters just like Terrifier. Damien Leone, the director and writer and producer and special effects guy of Terrifier, which I have back in there, listened to his fans and the criticism of the first movie, who a lot of people said, I like the gore, I like Art the Clown, but everything else was so uninteresting that I just didn't care for the movie, which is kind of the same camp that I was in. I hope that Joe Bigos kind of takes this in, doesn't take it personally, and thinks, you know, maybe I should put a little bit more thought or put a little bit more effort into the characters, into the writing, and try to make more likable characters and make an overall more enjoyable experience. And I think he will benefit a lot from that, and I think the fans will benefit a lot from that. These movies don't need to be complicated. They don't need to be, you know, they don't need to have a billion subplots, but maybe something. You cut to some army guys who know what's going to happen with this, and you show them trying to scramble to try try to stop this. You know, something to drive the plot other than these two characters. There needed to be some sort of subplot. Either way, guys, that is my thoughts on Christmas Bloody Christmas. I know this review was a little scattered. It just is what it is. But I think we're done here, guys. Please do leave your comments down below. What did you think of this movie? And I think we're done here, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
When you have a taste for the holidays, you want a soft drink that tastes like the holidays. You want the crisp, clean choice that's everyone's favorite icebreaker. 7-Up, the Uncola. Because you never know who might drop in.
Stop by the Winter Wonderland for holiday savings on all 7-Up products. And make the season bright.